Good morning to all.
Morning.
Come on and wake up. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, there we go. Wow. All right. Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to have a moment in prayer. I know there's somebody very special to MDX, and you, Executive Director, you want to mention?
Yes. I asked the chairman and the board if we can have a moment of silence. MDX lost a member of our family, Michael Kiliani. Many of you knew Michael Kiliani. He was our records custodian, and he was our assistant board secretary. And he was a resident of Commissioner Monesteam's district. He was a passionate man. He was a rebel rouser, but he was the life of the party here at MDX, and he was a loyal friend. And, I just want everybody to keep him in your prayers. His family, his daughter, his son, his granddaughter, which was the passion of his life. So thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair.
Monesteam, your friend also.
Yeah. Sideways before, after epitome of what passion, the sense of leadership, advising everyone. And at the Chamber of Commerce, when I saw him here, I know he worked here, but I didn't remember. When I came here last meeting and met him here, it was a moment of joy for me, reconnecting again with Michael. So we're going to miss him. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, if you could bow your heads. Our Lord, be with so many people that are going through the anguish of trying to find out what happened to their loved ones, their family, their friends, in this disaster that we had happen in Surfside. Our Lord, your patience, your love, your favor, your blessings need to be with all of us through this hard moment that we're facing, especially those families that are suffering tremendously. Give us wisdom as we move forward and deal with a scenario before us, and allow us to do the decisions that are the best for our community. Thank you for giving us everything we cherish. Sheriff, in your name, this we ask you, my Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please turn for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's your turn, Madam Clerk.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Board Member Fernandez,
Here.
Board Member Monesteam,
Here.
Board Member Rodon, Board Member Fano, Secretary Miller, Treasurer Weinberg, Vice Chair Moss,
Here.
Chairman Diaz. We have a-
Thank you. We have a quorum. With that, anybody have a declaration of any voting conflicts at this time? Okay. Doing your job, Mr. Attorney.
Yeah, I know.
We're moving things along.
Unemployment.
But you get paid the bigger bucks. At this point, we're going to open up for citizens' comments. The process, anybody that would like to speak on any of the issues before us, this is a time to do so. and come forth.
Here.
I'm sorry?
No.
People on the phone.
Ms. Fano's on the phone,
Fano is on the
and I
phone.
hear a
Oh, Ms.
delay.
Fano, I did not know. Okay, I'm sorry.
Morning.
I apologize. You know, all right, so we're on phone, and Fano, it's good to have you here in Cyberland. So with that, anybody that would like to speak on any of the issues, please come forth. Okay, for the records, let it show that nobody came forth to speak on any of the issues before us. All right, we continue to move forward, and I apologize to everybody, I haven't slept much in the last 48 hours for everything you guys know that we're dealing with. It's very difficult for all of us, and just bear with us, and especially bear with me. So with that, we're going to the approval of the summary of minutes.
Have a motion for
Do I have a motion? For the last meetings, what were the dates?
It was for the last meeting of May 28th, 2021.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? None. Okay, now, if we can, we have a treasurer's report,
Yes.
please.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be joined today with Marie Schaefer, our Deputy Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer. We're going to go over our treasurer's report first. So Marie, if you can just quickly go over that, and then we're going to get into our presentation of finances, if that's okay.
And I want to apologize before you do this. I also need a motion on setting the agenda.
Move it.
Oh, yes.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Moss, and thank you for reminding me. Thank you, Mike, Luz.
Second.
All right,
That's a
all in
good
favor,
motion.
say aye. So, all right, let the record show none opposed. With that, I have
None
a,
of that just happened.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm going to ask our Deputy Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer, Marie Schaefer, to please go over quickly over the treasurer's report, which is in your agenda packet, correct?
Certainly.
And then we'll get into our presentation of finances.
Yes.
Good morning, board members. In your package, we have presented the operating budget summary through fiscal May. And our fiscal year ends, as a reminder, is June, so there's one more month remaining in this fiscal year. We're showing revenues of 197 and expenses of 34.8. Overall, we do believe that the last half of the fiscal year, we have really recovered from the COVID and downward trend of traffic. Traffic is coming back. So we do feel that the budget that we put forth last year in April of 20, we should be able to exceed that budget from a revenue perspective for about $5 to $6 million. So I think overall, the agency is doing well from a financial perspective.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie. And you might notice, well, most of you are new, but our treasurer's report is sort of rather streamlined, much easier read, and focuses on really the meat and potatoes of our current finances. Today, we wanted to offer everyone present, whoever's tuned in, and our board itself, a sort of financial presentation on Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. I'm going to ask, I'm going to start the presentation, and then Marie Schaefer will take over. I'm going to ask respectfully of my board members if you would let Marie and I get through the presentation, and if there's questions, maybe jot them down.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you, thank you. We worked very hard on this all week, and we want to sort of have the flow of our intended message and information sharing with you guys. With that, are we ready? Okay. On a second. My notes here. Okay. We're ready. Marie, I'll look at you when you'll have the clicker. Perfect. Steve, you're joining us? Very good, thank you. So just for the record, Luz Weinberg, Treasurer, Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. With me today is Marie Schaefer, our Deputy Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer. We're going to go over a few slides. Some might take longer than others. If you ride any of our 5 highways, or you're just curious of how MDX goes, when I first joined this board in 2013, I spent an entire day here and met with every department director. Orientation was fierce, and I left with a giant binder. And I think Marie and her staff and Javier did a great job of taking that giant binder into these few slides that we're going to share with you today. Go ahead. Marie. So these 5 highways of ours are called the system. So when you're sitting with us at MDX and you hear us talk about the system, these are the 5 highways. Our beautiful Airport Expressway, State Road 112, the Dolphin Expressway we call 836, the down Shula 874, 878, and the Gratigny Parkway. So what happened? How did we begin? In December of 1996, the Florida Department of Transportation signed a transfer agreement with the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. And what that agreement did, it's transferred all of the operation and maintenance and finances of the system in perpetuity to Miami-Dade. And with that came the rights for us to regulate and set and assess our tolls and how we collect those tolls. So much like you pay your mortgage for a real property that you might buy, in exchange, MDX paid for the system to the Department of Transportation. And how did we pay for that? By issuing bonds in the amount of $80 million and also adding some liability of about $12 million. So now we're at what, $92 million. So that's the payment of the system. The transfer agreement became part, as it says right there, part of the trust indenture that we have with our bondholders. MDX receives no other tolls. There's no other monies. There's no gas tax. There's no sales tax. The roadway in our system are paid strictly with our user-based fee that are our tolls. And our user-based fees is directly invested right back into our system in Miami-Dade County, meaning your tolls stay right here in Miami-Dade County. Not a penny of your tolls that you paid into our system go elsewhere. They stay right here. Next slide. So, where are we? Our programs, Commissioner Moss will love the fact that we have a very strong small business enterprise program. Our SBE and local programs are typically, our policy is 10%, but as some of you who were here last month saw, a couple of the packages that we released for bid last month included a 15% DBE, and we're very proud of that. Overall, for fiscal year 2009 to 2020, we have had an investment of over $500 million, and that's an annual average of $42 million directly invested into our small business enterprise and local businesses. We're also very proud of our cashback program, frequent drivers program, which has paid out from fiscal years that we started in 2015 through last year, a total of $19 million. And that is for those customers who drive our system regularly. I don't qualify, being a girl from the north who only drives down here when I come to MDX or have to go to the airport for my many trips. So I fall within this 70% of MDX users who actually pay less than $10 a month on their tolls. Now, for those regular consumers who you ride our system daily and pay more than 10, then the cashback program is great for you. And I've had some very great feedback from a lot of the users on how great the program is and how they like getting some of that cash back. The multi-axle vehicle program caps our tolls at 3 axles. So if you're a truck driver with an 8-axle truck, you're only paying for 3 axles. And since inception of our multi-axle vehicle program, we have saved the trucking industry almost $40 million. And we're also very proud of that. That's additional contribution to the community. We also have our military program, which offers 15% to active military who reside or are stationed here in Miami-Dade County. And if you're not registered, I invite you to please visit our website or call our office and get yourself registered. We're actually very proud about our military program. Now, getting back to what I was saying about that 70% of our MDX customers actually only spend about $10 a month or less on our system. This graph shows you just how much a SunPass customer, a standard two-axle vehicle, pays on a monthly basis. So almost 70%, less than $10 a month in our system. So the notion or the claim that the majority, air quotes, of our customers are paying $5 a day in our system is simply not supported by data, real data that we actually collect. So perhaps that may be so for other highways. I know it was so for me when I lived in Aventura and worked downtown building the Port Miami Tunnel and Brickell City Center, driving the the express lanes at almost $10 at each ride, each way every day. Yeah, I was definitely paying a whole lot more in tolls, but that would not be the case on a system on MDX. So nearly 70% of our customers, again, paid less than $10 a month. So reporting. We do not operate in a vacuum. So some of our new board members are commissioners on the county or have been for a long time. I served in Aventura Commission. We have financial reporting requirements as a local government, and MDX, some of our filing that we have to do, we file as a local government. So just like we here can't take your tax dollars in your municipalities and do whatever we want with it because we have someone watching, here at MDX, we can't just take your tolls and do whatever we want with it. We are heavily scrutinized and regulated and watched. So we file, you can see some of the agencies up there, the SEC of all places too, credit rating agencies, and Marie's gonna get into how important those are of how we obtain and manage that, and the Florida Transportation Commission even. So I also wanna share that every single member of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority has to also financially report. And we have this form called Form 6, and it's called the Full and Public Disclosure Statement, full and public. And I have to tell them how much money I make, my income, my assets, my liabilities, what I'm worth, my net worth. I have to sit down and figure out every year. And sometimes it can be depressing. But we have to fill out this paperwork and let the state know if we have any, perhaps, special interests in special businesses that might conflict with the agency. So we're also heavily scrutinized. None of us here operate in a vacuum, neither does our agency. We're required to be transparent, and we are exactly that. I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that before we even get to all that financial reporting, there's the bond issuing process, which is an exhaustive 6-phase process. Everybody's hands are on this process, and it's heavily, heavily scrutinized. And there's participants, about 10 of them, and that from engineers to traffic managers to bond insurers to the trustees who watch over the bond issuers. It's an endless, almost endless, because we do have an end result, but it's an almost endless process to ensure the transparency and accountability that the agency should have to their bondholders and ultimately, of course, our customers, our toll users. So that's on reporting. Partnerships and contributions are something we're very, very proud of at MDX. We have never said no to anybody that has come to us to ask, so long as whatever they need doesn't conflict with our contractual obligation parameters that we have, as I just mentioned. So that has never happened, and it will never happen, but to the extent that we can help, we have. And here are just some of the examples with the FDOT, the interchange, very beautiful now interchange on 836 and 826, the Palmetto and the Dolphin, the Miami Intermodal Center just across the street. There was even a loan to FDOT for the right-of-way acquisition at 836 and 826. The Florida Turnpike Enterprise, the RAM connector is opening when now? In the summer. In the summer, we'll be opening the 874 RAM connector. With the Miami-Dade County, as some of our colleagues here know very well, we've also partnered well. I'm very happy about our Buses on Shoulders program, because that was directly a work with Miami-Dade Transit. And when you see Florida International University, that was actually an academic and institutional partnership with the FIU Lehman Center for transportation research. And the study looked at review traffic management services, and the Buses on Shoulders came out of that study. So there is constant ongoing partnerships going on, not only financially, but also educational and institutional, and we're very proud of that. And the dollar value to that partnership is $550 million. So not changed since the agency started throughout the last 25 years. Major projects completed. I'm going to sit on this slide for a bit because it really is my favorite slide. I mean, talk about stepping up and helping the community. This is what we have done. Since we bought the system in 1996, the authority has done nothing but step up. And now we have 235 miles of highways and 155 bridges. 235 lane miles. That's if I took a drive to Orlando, perhaps, or even a little bit more. Since we bought the system, I don't think those were the numbers when we bought the system, clearly. So remember that first slide when I equated us buying the system from FDOT as you buying a home and entering into a mortgage? So look at this slide, and the major projects completed, if you add up all those numbers, about a $1.25 billion investment. That changed. It's over $1 billion investment. From the 80 million bonds we issued and the 12 million of added liability we absorbed, and $92 million to buy the system, $1.2 billion then to invest in it. So imagine you bought your house for the $92,000 in 1996, and you loved your house so much. You did all your maintenance, you operated your house well, and you invested in that property to the tune of $1.2 million. Face value now, that property is worth a whole lot more. And that's what we have done here. So with this $1.2 billion, I don't know if you want to chime in, Javier, but they're right up there, and I want to leave them up there so people can see what we have done, the access to the turnpike at 836, the extension of 137th, and if you want to chime in with each of them.
Yes, this was what MDX was intended to do. When we took over the system, anybody remembers, it's not that long ago. 20 years is not that long. 836 had backups because of the toll plaza at the Orange Bowl that would go back to the Palmetto. If you were going west, as the West Dade County was growing, the backup to get to the turnpike to go south would go all the way east of the Palmetto. It wasn't pretty. I remember the district secretary struggling on financing 836 to fill potholes and change guardrail before this transaction happened with the Expressway Authority. But the point of this slide, and Luz and I spoke about this, is these were commitments that we made to our community, and these are commitments that we've kept with our community. If you look at the MDX system, all of 836 has been reconstructed and extended to 137th Avenue. The final piece on the east side is the partnership with the Florida DOT, which is a signature bridge. All of 874 was reconstructed, widened, and improved. The Gratigny was improved. State Road 112 has been improved, even though that is a focus for the future because we need to replace a lot of our infrastructure on 112. It's the oldest one of our highways. The point is, we were created to generate a funding source, to leverage that funding source, and to make improvements locally. And I think that's exactly what we've done. And I had this conversation with Luz, I was a PD&E project manager for many, many years at DOT, and we always had the but-for test. But for A, B would not happen, or but for C, D would not happen. But for MDX and the toll payers of Miami-Dade County financing all of these improvements, where would Miami-Dade County be right now? Where would we be right now as an economic center? Could we survive with none of these improvements being made? Because the reality is, but for these dollars that toll payers invested in their system, the money wasn't here. So these projects would not have occurred. So, you know, I always say this at presentations, you know, everybody asks me to eliminate congestion. You need to do everything to eliminate congestion. No, we don't need another pandemic. We don't need to turn off the sun or close the airports. You know what we need to do? We need to manage our congestion and become a world-class city. And I think that's what we're doing. Between the SMART plan, TPO taking a lead on that, MDX, DOT, Miami-Dade County being partners, and the municipalities, I think we're well on our way to those partnerships of providing mobility solutions. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and these are improvements on roadways that the last bullet down there that you see is meant to say nothing of the improvements in the information technology or electronic tolling and the way we've come. The toll plaza you referenced, I mean, you can close your eyes and visualize. I remember vividly, mid-90s, the stacking that you mentioned on the toll plaza on 836 and 112. So if you're a businessman who just landed at the airport and you're trying to get downtown for a meeting, you were parked literally. And let's not even talk about the the emissions that are generated from vehicles that are idle. So we've helped the environment, actually, in this infrastructure development. And we've helped also, so toll payers, thanks to our toll payers, we've committed and delivered on these improvements, but also the system, the roadway systems outside of our highways also benefits. So let's never forget about that. So let's not also forget where we were before, as Javier mentioned. Where would the city of Doral be but for MDX? Where would downtown Miami, all of the progress that we have had over the last 15, 20 years be without this incredible roadway system? So, and we saw, yes, painfully and sadly, that it took a pandemic, like you mentioned last year, to get rid of traffic. I wanted to go anywhere just because there were no cars on the street. But that's not a reality. You can't be a thriving, attractive, desirable, sexy city like Miami and Miami-Dade County and expect there to be no congestion. We have to manage this sexy congestion. And the way we have managed this sexy congestion, yes, because it is. I see it as very sexy because we're attracting people. We're busy because people want to be here. People want to be us. People want to move here. And these projects, these infrastructure developments and investment is how we have managed to do that, manage this congestion. So,
You know, Treasurer, if I may interject, 15 years ago, I mentioned sexy and got in trouble for it. But it sure as heck sounds better from you than from me. But, you know, I also looked at highway improvements and improvements to our community as something that is desirable.
Absolutely.
You know, people want to be in a place that is modernized and efficient. And I think that's what we meant. So.
no, I meant sexy. So these projects don't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and 836 is beautiful and wide and huge and you don't have to stop to pay your toll, et cetera. We have to go out to market and get this money. And then we figure ways while trying to get that money, there are contracts that tell us how we're going to pay back this money. So with that, I think I've talked enough, and I want to turn it over to Marie Schaefer, who will now get into how we finance MDX and how we really get this money and pay back this money. So, thank you.
Recognize. Thank you.
Turn it on. Hit the button.
We definitely want to hear what you want to say, so make sure that.
There you go.
All right, thank you, Ms. Weinberg. The treasurer highlighted some of the projects, and this is a summary of the outstanding debt and how we actually paid for those projects. We currently have $1.3 billion of debt outstanding, and I'd like you to think of this as there are 7 different bond series or 7 different loans. The 2005 is a variable rate loan, and the remaining is all fixed rate debt. We have a finance team which consists of our attorneys, bond underwriting, disclosure counsel, and our financial advisors. Our financial advisors and myself and my staff have been evaluating the market. And as you can see from this graph, you know, we're at historical low interest rates, and that shouldn't be a secret to anybody. I think all municipalities around the country have had the opportunity and taken the advantage of refinancing their debt, restructuring their debt because of low interest rates. And what we've done is we've evaluated just 2 simple structures. There's a whole bunch of different combinations that you can look at, but what we wanted to present to the board today was 2 opportunities and to really kind of show what some of the financial impacts are. We looked at refunding the 2010 and 2013 partial, and what that really does, it yields $170 million. It reduces our repayment to our bondholders, that's real money, of $170 million. It's very significant. If you present value that back, time value of money, it's $120 million. So it's a savings of almost 24%. And we didn't extend the debt. We didn't, you know, in any way, you know, bring it out longer or anything like that. This is, you know, taking the debt and just lowering the interest rates, and essentially what you end up with is a lower payment of $170 million. And we also looked at, well, what do we do if we take the entire debt out and kind of restructure how we make the payment? We weren't going to extend it, the life of it. The life was going to be the same amount of life outstanding. And what we see there is about $110 million of lower debt service and about 132 present value savings. So the assumptions are that when we did this analysis is that it was based upon the rates of mid-June, June 16th. We looked at the market, and we also based it on our current ratings today, which was a blended rating. We were A3, A, and a triple B. So we did a blended, what would we, realistically get in the market for that type of rating. And we looked, the information we're showing you is all-in cost. It's not, partial cost. This is a true TIC. And this assumes that we weren't under litigation and there was no noise around MDX. This was that we had the ability to go out to market and to be able to do all the proper disclosures and get all the appropriate necessary legal opinions. So what does that really mean? It's just math, but the reality is that it does reduce our debt service payment the first 15 years, almost $20 million. And it brings the debt service to $83 million. And some years, if you can see in the graph, it's upwards $120 million, $119 million, $125 million. And what we've done is we've leveled it out to a debt service of $83 million. And what that really means at the end of the day is that it provides an enormous amount of flexibility from a policy perspective as to evaluating toll rates, evaluating different programs we have, the ability to revamp, the cash back program, to bring projects forward, to do them sooner, to actually make a lot of projects financially feasible. So there's an enormous amount of benefit by, refinancing and restructuring the debt. So, it's math, but there's a lot of policy opportunities here to take advantage that really would benefit our toll payers.
That is something that we're constantly doing,
Exactly.
revising and reviewing and looking for ways to improve and opportunities to have.
Correct. So the analysis that we did was based upon the current ratings, which was A3, A, and triple B, which is a bit lower than when we, previously back in 2018 and 19, we were on the cusp of a AA credit. And as everybody knows, your credit score is very important. When you go out and get a mortgage, the better credit score you get, the lower interest rate you get. And that's basically costs money, right? So, we had we were at A, one credit from Moody's, a positive outlook. We were right there getting a AA, which was, very, very good. An A from S&P, an A+. So I think overall, we were very strong from that perspective. What happened? How did we go from an A1 to a triple B? Well, this is coming from the ratings report. We just did a couple of excerpts. And, prior to the legislation, the rating agencies were very comfortable with, the management, the policies of this organization, the financial results of this organization, and the history. One of the comments I didn't put here was that when we committed to do a project, we actually kept our commitments. And I think the treasurer brought that point out. We borrowed money to build a project, and we built the project, and we did it in a time frame in which we said we were going to do it. So I think that was something that when they benchmark us to other organizations, toll entities around the country, that was a very positive comment. Unfortunately, after the legislation and some of the political interference in the House Bill 385, the majority of all the rating agencies essentially downgraded the authority. So why does that really matter that we got downgraded? Why do we really care about our credit? Well, as I indicated, your credit score determines how much interest you're going to pay. And it's not the authority that's going to pay the interest. We just make the mechanics, the payment. It's really the toll payers' money. It's their money that we're using to repay the debt. So what this graph shows is how much more do you pay based upon your credit? And this is not specific to MDX. We just took our financial advisors, helped me put this together, and we just kind of typically, where do you end up from a B credit as opposed to an A credit? And what this graph shows is that you're going to pay 33 basis points more than if you were an A credit. And when you quantify that, if I had $100 million over a 30-year period, you're essentially going to pay almost $7 million more for that particular loan. And if
Marie, so the delta between an A and a B is a $7 million cost.
It's a $7 million cost.
On
And
100.
again, this is just a typical, and I just gave an example, what it usually prices in the market. If I looked at the restructuring did of the $1.3 billion and used it over the life of that loan, it would amount to about almost $68 million more of interest cost that the toll payers would be paying. So it is significant, and that's why the ratings do matter.
Mary, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Wait.
The $7 million cost would be on what amount, principal amount?
$100 million. So the
$100 million.
first example was, if you had $100 million over a 30-year period, that 33 basis points would amount to almost $70 million.
Yeah, that's important to know
$7 million.
because you mentioned the 1.3 billion total debt earlier. I don't want anyone listening to think that the $7 million is
It's
on
on
the
the- yeah.
1.3 billion.
Yeah.
It's actually per 100 million.
Correct. So on the 1.3 billion, it comes out to be almost $68 million. So the importance of our credit and maintaining our credit and the ability to go out to the bond market is because obviously we want to take advantage of refinancing our debt, lowering our toll payments for our toll payers, take an opportunity of some of the policy setting that I spoke of earlier about the programs. But we also have a capital plan that we still need to fund. So this was the last capital plan the previous governing board had approved, which was fiscal 20 to 2024. Some of the projects have been completed, some of them are underway, and a lot of them got pushed out due to the fact that we really had some funding constraints. So, the credit is important, and hopefully, we can be in the market in the near term in order to fund these projects and move them forward.
Right. Thank you, Marie. And as I mentioned in a lot of the briefings, this is the exercise. It's very similar to what is done at, at the Department of Transportation or at the county, at the different divisions. This is what we call gaming. This is where the board participates in a workshop. Staff brings out, priorities and needs, and then the board prioritizes. And then we work with our financial staff to see how much of those priorities can be afforded, and we build our work program. And then that work program gets presented to the TPO and adopted at the TPO as part of their 5-year plan. So it's a process that is continuous. And for the last 3 years, we have not been able to. We with the fortune of having the board allow us to move forward with some projects last month, we've been on a cash basis, basically a maintenance agency. So what we're looking at is what's happened because of these missed opportunities and really who is being harmed. And it's the toll payers, board members. It isn't the agency. It isn't the authority. It's the toll payers. And at the end of the day, we were created to make investments here in Miami-Dade County, to improve mobility in Miami-Dade County, to be efficient and find efficiencies and innovations, and we want to get back to that. And I think that was the whole point of this presentation. These are a lot of missed opportunities. We hopefully, with the will of God, we can move forward and get back to the business of the authority and the business of the community. And with that, we conclude our presentation and we open it for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. Lucy, you wanted to add anything else?
No, I want
on
to
your report?
entertain questions, and then we'll go ahead and close our report.
Mr. Moss, I know you have questions, and then we'll follow up on everybody else with their questions, and I'll wrap up with several questions in a statement at the end. Go ahead, Mr. Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me say I want to thank you, the mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners. I saw the vice chair as well, on your leadership during this very difficult time that we're having up in Surfside. And I want to thank Treasurer Weinberg for that presentation. I think it's very illustrative of a lot of things. And I've got a couple of questions. Number one, you stated that we paid $92 million to buy the system. What does that really mean?
Well, go ahead. We had,
What it really means is that we have full control over the operations, maintenance, finances, of the system in perpetuity and irrevocable. We entered into a contract to operate the system. Think of it as almost a perpetual easement in real estate terms. That's what it means, sir. This community paid for the right to operate these systems and determine its own outcome. That's really what it means.
Okay, so we paid $92 million for that opportunity, that right. And do we have a projected value of what the system is worth today based upon all of the investments that have been made in?
Turn it on. Turn it on. Marie, if you can stand at the podium, I think it'll be better because there's going to be a lot of questions.
So Commissioner Moss, a couple of years ago, we did get a valuation, and the range was anywhere from $2.5 billion to $4 billion of the value of the system at that point in time.
So the system has grown in value over a period of time that
20-some
MDX
years.
has owned, the system. And right now, it's valued at approximately $2.5 to $4 billion.
That's correct, sir. Yes, sir.
On the issue of, you talked about updating the annual cost per user, and 70%, it's about $10
Or
a
less.
year. Okay. I would recommend that we continue to update that, and we continue to get that information out into the community, because we have to deal with some of these perceptions out there. And, that's a recommendation, Mr. Chair, I would make that the board take a look at. Also, because of our current situation, we are, and I say we, meaning our toll payers, our community, we are missing out on multiple millions of dollars in savings that could go to rolling back, what we charge as far as tolls are concerned, or building new infrastructure that is needed today, but for the situation we find ourselves in. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
That is correct.
So our community is being harmed by us being in this position. I mean, everybody's refinancing, their debt and utilizing those savings to make improvements or to make other decisions that they have before them, but we're not in that position. And I think that that's unfortunate, and I think the community really needs to know that and understand that.
And if I may, Commissioner Moss, so it was not only a function.
Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's not only a function of the situation we find ourselves in, let's leave it there, but also we faced a pandemic along with our entire community last year. We all took a hit. So we had bad on top of bad. And as Marie so eloquently put it with her financial advisors and her team, we went out to market and reviewed the books and tried to figure out how we can restructure all of this and take this impact. And it's not new. This isn't for the last 2-3 years. We've been, I'll say the word attacked, because that's what it has been for maybe 5-6 years, since just about the time I even got on here. So, but we've continued to manage with what comes at us, and this agency has flawlessly executed service on our roadways despite of all that. And I want to commend again and again Javier and Carlos and Marie, Juan, and all their staff at MDX who have basically kept this ship afloat despite what you mentioned and all those hurdles that we've been facing. Our financials somehow, not somehow, because of these people, is stable.
And let me just say that also what was not mentioned to the degree that I thought that it should have been is in looking at the maintenance on the MDX system. Mm-hmm. And I've always held MDX out as basically the leader as relates to creating an aesthetically pleasing, well-maintained roadway facility. And we've always, when I say we MDX, we've always done a better job than, just about all of the other entities out there in the community. And so I just want to make sure that that people understand that we take pride in making sure that we have some of the best roadways, anywhere in this country. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for the
If I
opportunity.
may, Mr.
Thank-
Chair, on that
Thank
point.
you, Commissioner Moss.
On that point, if I may, yes, you're absolutely correct. You feel the difference when you drive on a toll road of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. And a few years back, this board took action to actually put signage out to identify. Like you said, we need to continue to remind our community. So now there's, a few years back, we put up signage so that you would know when you're on an MDX road. And I want to soon also bring up to this board a recommendation to have exits and entry signage, so that when you do take those exits and shoulders that lead you onto a Miami-Dade Expressway Authority road, you know you're entering it and you know when you're exiting it. Because yes, it is time for us to really take ownership of the great job and the maintenance that you just mentioned that we do, because we do a great job at that.
Thank you, Ms. Weinberg. Commissioner Monestein, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After the comment earlier, I want to, by Ms. Weinberg, I voted to make her the face of our marketing department, our spokesperson, because everybody enjoy living in a
You're gonna have a
sexy
couple of
city.
seconds on that.
Yeah, and you're right. Actually, you've made one of my comments relevant, actually, that you don't have any major city, any major metropolis in the world where you don't have heavy traffic. So, and that's what Miami is becoming, the envy of the world. Mr. Chair, I appreciate this conversation. Actually, let me say, I think it was wise when you, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I think it was very wise when you recommended Commissioner Moss to be a part of this board. For a time like this, I think this is an opportunity, honestly. This crisis is an opportunity for this board to rebrand itself, make it a whole lot more relevant, especially helping the constituency understand the many millions of dollars that they're losing because of this unfortunate political situation that we find ourselves in. $68 million of toll-payer dollars being lost, and the cost, because we all have realized how much this county has been able to save from refinancing our bonds. We all have, as homeowners, have taken advantage of this economy. Whether you had a 4% interest rate or 5% interest rate, to try to bring it down to 2%. And that's the same thing that can happen here. This is something that can very well relate to the average taxpayer, the average toll payer, the average homeowner, that this is unfortunate, and they too must get involved in addressing this and reaching out to their representative, to their local and state representative, to make sure that we address this issue. These monies could have been paid back to our customers in terms of rebates, in terms of better roads, in terms of the words that Commissioner Moss uses all the time, building a better aesthetically pleasing community. So I want to join in this conversation. And Javier, you and I have had many conversations in the past about the aesthetic of this community. And frankly, the dean here has said it well. This agency has done a better job than most in making sure that our right-of-ways remains more aesthetically pleasing than others. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Monestein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maria, I have a question regarding the reward programs, because I think this is important to point out to the person that, the taxpayer and the toll payer that's paying for these tolls, that I think reward programs were scaled back, I think because of the pandemic, correct?
Actually, in 2019, we didn't pay it out due to the legislation, and then 2020 was obviously the pandemic that occurred. So it was really just, I think, the last three and a half years. There's 1 year was a half a year. So we paid out anywhere from $2.5 to about over $5 million per year.
Okay, so I think it's important to highlight, it's not just the infrastructure that we're going to be this savings of the 68 million, it's also the rebate program that a lot of people are used to getting, right? So people here, yes, we may be able to reduce our toll rates, but I think the reward programs are important to highlight that we've been impacted because of this. And that's something that's also open, that will be open if we were able to refinance back to save these $68 million. It's not just new projects, because sometimes people hear, oh no, more projects, more infrastructure, which is important, but I think the average person that pays a toll also likes to know that they have access to be able to, get monies from the reward programs.
Everybody likes to get a tax rebate check. I don't know why.
Correct.
But they do.
So I think I wanted to highlight, it's not just projects, it's also the importance of those reward programs. For the average person, that's where they feel it the most, probably, so.
Luz?
Yes, and I want, Javier, the average cashback rewards program participant
Yes.
got a check
We-
back at the end of the year, right on time, right before Christmas, of about how much?
We ran these numbers over the period of time, and the average toll payer was getting back $120 that qualified for the program. The average check was about $120. The largest check that we gave out over this period of time was for a business, a local business who was in the transportation world, and it was over $20,000. And they actually look forward to it every year because it was part of their business model. The point of it is that if our facilities are providing a service, people are willing to pay for that service, as long as we give them good return on their investment or value for their proposition, that's the game. That's what toll agencies are supposed to do. And the rewards program, which is really a dividend. And I want to explain this to the board.
Yes,
When we
please.
created this rewards program, cashback program, it wasn't simply, let's reduce toll rates, because that wasn't it. What we basically said was, let's incentivize ourselves as an agency, and let's put our money where our mouth is. If we perform better than we predict, if we are more efficient than what we predict, let's give portion of that savings back to the user. Rather than just save the investment community money, let's give back to the people who are actually paying into the system. And that's how we did it. And the way we were able to sell, in quotes, to the rating agencies is that for every customer who qualifies for the cashback program, they have to have a valid account, and it has to be in good standing. So we're basically saving ourselves money on the operational side because you have a transponder-based transaction rather than an image-based transaction. So it was actually an efficiencies exercise here. And it's been wildly popular, and we regret that we haven't been able to do it for the last couple of years. So,
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director, and thank you, Board Member Fernandez also. Board Member Weinberg, thank you for the presentation. One of the things I would like, first of all, I know Board Member Fano is there. Do you have any questions, Board Member Fano?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chair.
I can't hear. Could
Yes,
somebody put
my
up a
question
volume,
would be,
please?
when can we reinstate the cashback?
That is something that I'm going to be asking questions about now. It's part of my notes, and Commissioner Moss also stated it, and that is something that we'll look into now. But before we do that, do you have any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, the report is very clear. This is a report that's, it's numbers that are set there, that there's no line, there's no way to change them. This is what it is. And all of my colleagues have basically said how difficult it is to sit here, and I didn't do it, but the board members that have been here, Executive Director, and as Board Member Weinberg said, all those people that kept the lights on and the place open and, the maintenance done and everything done. But to sit and see money going to waste, taxpayers' money, it's unacceptable to me. And that's hard. How many millions of dollars were lost in the last 3 years in this issue of this lawsuit? Could somebody give me the amount?
From the standpoint of just refinancing, it's about $170 million opportunity.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
$170 million of lowering our debt payment. It's a lost opportunity.
Of lost opportunity to
Right.
lower the payment,
That-
and that money could have been used to produce so much more for our community. So it's just $170 million of lost opportunities of funding due to this situation that has gone through. This is the reason why we're here. This is the reason why we want to move forward and continue to do the right thing for our community. And we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that we continue on. And that's a pledge, I think, from all of us here. And together, we will make sure that we get back in line, because we don't, this has many different levels of issues. But the most important issue is the people that pay tolls every day, that are looking for betterment in their system, that they get for what they pay for. And when there's a savings that could be given back to them, that they could get it. And these are the things that is important to us as board members sitting here, is that we could do things like this for our community. There's a little confusion going on, and I want to get that cleared. The other highways that have tolling, like the tolling on I-95, that does not go to MDX in any way, am I correct?
No, sir.
Who does that go to?
That's the state of Florida.
The state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
What other highways does the state get the money?
It's Palmetto Expressway, I-95, and the Florida Turnpike.
And the Florida Turnpike. The Florida Turnpike is an entity all on its own.
But
Or
runs
is it
up to
part of the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically they, what was it? The other day I went to take the I-95 North and it was $14 just one way, depending on the time of the day and so on. So the expense is pretty intense in the monies we make. Is there an accountability of that money that is collected from the taxpayers of Miami-Dade County that use I-95 and the Turnpike and so on?
I think the Florida Turnpike does put out a financial report. I don't know about the Palmetto Expressway I-95. I think you're going to have to really request information from the state on that specific. I don't think they have a separate report on that.
I would like that information requested
Okay.
and brought to us. There is a very important point when it comes to outreach and information. Communication is the most important thing for the citizens of this community, because if they don't understand what is going on, they will hear what somebody says and maybe take that for what it is. So the clarity of the situation has to be presented, as Commissioner Moss stated earlier. I think all of us have said it in a certain way. So I will ask the executive director to see how we could put this information out to our citizens that pay the tolls, so they could understand what this entity does. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be correct and precise to our citizens, because they need to understand what's going on, because there's a lot of confusion. And I think that is something we have to clear up as part of our duty. The other issue is the rollback. And I know I spoke to the executive director about the rollback, and Commissioner Moss and everybody stated, and Board Member Fano has also stated it. I would like this implemented as soon as possible. I would like to see how much we could get back, but at the same time, the issuing of these bonds, so we could get a greater savings for our people, our community, and that will give us the kind of savings. But the more we wait, and the longer it takes, and the more this is tied up, the less money our citizens are going to get back, because the rates will change in the market, and they're changing already. And that is something that we need to take advantage of. As a county, we take advantage of lowering our bond rates by refreshing, or how does it called?
Refunding
I'm
or
sorry, I'm not,
refinancing.
refunding, refinance. The bonds, and we've been able to shorten terms because of the amount of money that we're getting on the refurbishing of these bonds. So that is something that needs to be looked at immediately too, and how that could be done. And I know that's legal, and your office, and of course, the executive director, staff. But these are the things that need to be done now, and how we could do them and expedite them. Now, I don't mind calling a meeting to expedite anything, and I don't think any of the board members here have a problem with that. So at this point, I would like to get some wisdom on my statements, if I can.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, we will bring back to this board a resolution with reinstating the cashback, the
Frequent
the rewards program. We've internally have a lot of the data. We've been running the data, and what we would bring to you are various options. % rebate, who would qualify, how many would qualify, and I would ask for one more indulgence, if you may. Since we weren't able to do it for the last 2 years, we'd like to look at the time period from July 1st of 2019, prior to the pandemic, all the way through June 30th of 2021. It's a 2-year period. There was a pandemic in the middle, and I believe, that a lot of the folks that used our highways, which used it and commuted prior to the pandemic, and now post-pandemic are back on there, it's almost like if we were rewarding them for a full year. So we would like to bring back options, percent-wise, what we can afford, how we can afford it, how quickly. All of this work so that this board knows all these checks are produced here at the authority. Marie's staff of 3 puts it together, and we mail them out from here, from Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. And we've had a 98% rate of
Cash rate.
cashing the check.
Yeah.
Because the program requires you to have your address and your information updated. So we want to do this year, and we will bring back that program. I've also instructed staff to look at opportunities that are beyond just the traditional municipal bonding financing options. I've asked staff to look at various structures that we would be able to implement aside from this litigation. It may cost a little bit more. We will lay them out for this board. I think it's important to weigh out, do we pay 1 or 2% more and get this project today? Because the value of money is the value of money, okay? And we will bring these structures to you. We don't want to sit around on our hands anymore, and I think that with a board guiding us from a policy standpoint, I think we can bring back those proposals. As soon as we have them, I will speak with you, Mr. Chair, and if we have to call a special meeting, we'll do that.
Absolutely.
Javier, I have a
Board Member Fernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Javier, I have a question regarding what you're going to bring back for the cashback program. I'm assuming if we were to refinance, that would be different, correct? The amount that would go back to the taxpayer versus what you guys can do now.
The way our program worked was that we would give back to the toll payers who qualified up to 30% of the tolls that they spent. And it was always dependent on our finances. The minimum was 15%, I believe. So obviously, if we can refinance, you would be at the higher end. But again, if it's the desire of this board to move forward and reinstate that program, we will show you the various percentages that are affordable, that could happen, that will not affect our operations, maintenance, ongoing construction, and put it before the board for your.
And if you can also show just that comparison, if we were to
Absolutely.
refinance, one thing is what we have available now, but it's where we could be in the future.
And we will do that.
Exactly. I
We will
agree.
do that.
Thank you, Board Member Fernandez. Board Member Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I think is important, particularly during these very stressful times when everybody's income is being really tested, I think it would be wonderful to be able to reinstate the program and to be able to give back to our toll users that rebate. I think that the timing would be excellent, and I think that it's in line with everything that is going on throughout the country in terms of really trying to support your community during these very difficult times. So I look forward to you coming back with something that's going to be good for our residents here in Miami-Dade County.
Board Member Moss, I can tell you, excuse me, I can tell you, seeing two former board members here, Secretary Pago and Louis Martinez, this community appreciates when they get their cash back, and they look forward to it, especially Uber drivers who are on the highway every day. They look forward to it.
I think anybody looks forward to a check in the mail when not expected, but not a bill, but a check. But this is, what's the time span that you think something like this could be put together?
Oh, we can, for sure, we can bring this back at the next board meeting of July 29th. I think the critical part is not the rebate program, but it's the refunding or financing options. And I think as soon as we have some information on that, I will speak with you. And if we can advance a meeting, we will advance a meeting, because I think that's more critical. That is critical right now to see how we can move forward with financing.
Board members, you agree?
Absolutely.
That if the opportunity presents itself to get the information or be able to trigger this refinancing and so on, that we need to have a meeting probably earlier than the 29th?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I also want to state, thank you so much for the report. Thank you so much for the
If I
work.
may, I want to
Yes.
close, just a couple of points I want to leave as we end our treasurer's report. And thank you, Marie, for all that work and your team that put this together. So one point and an analogy. So to answer your question, Mr. Chair, as to where the dollars on the I-95 and the Palmetto dollars go, they go up to Tallahassee, and then they're distributed throughout the state. Unlike our toll dollars here, we're very proud of our toll dollars staying here in Miami-Dade County, and I think I had that in bold capital letters in my notes, because your toll dollars stay right here in Miami-Dade County. They don't go outside to fund anything else. And then to perhaps illustrate or visualize an explanation as to this situation we find ourselves in that we keep referring to. Back to my analogy of when you bought that house in 1996 for $92,000 and you invested about $1 million over the past 25 years on that house. Somebody comes up to you in the summer of 2019 and says, this house is no longer yours. I'm going to rename the owner of this house on the title and take it away from you, offering zero explanation as to what it was that you did wrong. Your financial reports were all up to date. The board was all up to date. The staff was doing their job. The agency was running as smoothly as it ever had. Nothing had changed. Nothing had gone wrong. Zero explanations given. But this person stepped into your house and said, this house is no longer yours. We're taking over. Get out of here. Step aside. That's the situation we find ourselves in, and you find yourself without a home, an inability to provide for the people you were caring for. Yet, the staff here somehow figured out a way to continue to provide for the people they're caring for, our toll payers, through our roadways, maintenance, and operation that continues to go without a hitch. So with that, I can close my report and say that despite all of that, and despite a pandemic that got thrown on top of you being without a house, we continue to operate, and I'm so happy to have this board so very fully supportive of the efforts of what this staff, it's in this building every day doing. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Also, Mr. Executive Director, on the issue of getting information out, do we need to do something, or do we have staff already that could
No,
put
we-
out information?
we have staff.
Any funding or anything that we need to provide immediately?
We have staff and we have funding. We just needed the direction, and we got the direction.
Okay, so I have a motion. A motion to move forward on this?
Move it.
Yes,
I have a motion, a second.
happily second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's done officially.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mr.
Now,
Chair, thank
before-
you, everybody.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I promised last meeting that we want to make things a lot more transparent here at MDX, and it's something that, with the hard work of MDX and their people in IT, and also Miami-Dade County and Miami-Dade County TV, I want to thank the mayor and the administration for allowing this to take place. and to make these meetings now are being simulcasted on Miami-Dade TV. So citizens could actually see this meeting, have seen this meeting as of today. And of course, it's simulcasted on the internet and several other places. Transparency is what we're about. We never hid anything. This board has not ever been accused of any wrongdoings. It's simply moving forward and doing what any other board does in any other level of government. So this was important, and I think that it's a new day and it's a historic day that this takes place. So those are the issues that I have now. Let's continue on with business. I have Article 5, there's 2 action items, I understand, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Executive Director?
Yes, sir.
Which is A and B. So do you want to speak on them, or do we take them?
It's at the will of the board. We can read them both into the record, and if anybody has any questions on either of the items, we can address them. Otherwise, you can
Mr.
take
Attorney?
action.
Do you read them for the
Would
record?
you like me to read them both, or just do one at a time? I mean, they're quick.
We could take both at a time.
Okay, then regular agenda item A, approval for a performance-based incentive program utilizing new software developed by our vendor, Open Roads Consulting, Inc., for the automated manual image review system, MDX contract 14-03-B. And item B is the approval of supplemental number 9 to the State Road 874 ramp connector project, MDX contract number RFP 15-02. Mr. Andriuk will.
Okay, both items. Any question, board members, on any of the 2 items? Commissioner Ross?
Not a question, but a request. Mr. Executive Director, I'd like at the next meeting, if you could bring us back a report on the update on the 874 extension out to Southwest 137th Avenue. And I bring it up, Mr. Chairman, because, you know, that started when I first came to office, really trying to figure out a way to get additional opportunities for residents who are west of the turnpike to access the community better. And so I put together a task force, and out of that task force, one of the recommendations, the main recommendation, was to try to look at extending 874. And I took to the MPO at the time, TPO today, a request to do a feasibility study. And that feasibility study was completed, and it became a project of the work plan. And today, we're getting very close to that being completed. And so I'd like to get an update on that. Again, it's supposed to look similar to the 836 exchange with the lighting and the aesthetics, and, you know, I was insistent upon that. And it's a tremendous project. So I'd like to get an update at the
We
next
will do
meeting.
that, sir.
Okay?
We will
Thank
do
you
that.
very much.
Yes.
That works out. So do I have a motion on these 2 items?
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Weinberg, second by Board Member Moss. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? None. All right, let's move forward. Go ahead.
I
Board
move
Member
that we
Weinberg.
let Commissioner Moss take the inaugural ride on the extension.
One's going to take an
It sounds like he's
inaugural,
earned it.
Yes.
I was going to say something about it. You're right. Everybody will take it. Yeah, that's all good. It's all good. So with that, what items do we have
We have
before us?
informational items that will always appear on your agendas, which is the procurement report, but we also added this month the small business and local business utilization report. It's the last page of the, of that packet. I think during the treasurer's report and presentation, it shows our utilization, and which has exceeded 40% over the last 11 fiscal years. And we look forward to expanding that program, reinitiating that program. The outreach component, I think that's part of the outreach that is expected of us. So just wanted to put that on the record, sir. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Onestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Director, if you could give us, if you could share with us a report which shows the number of participants and,
Yes.
and the small business program, we would
Yes.
appreciate that.
We will do that. We will do that, sir.
And Mr. Executive Director, if you'll be kind enough to take these things off for the next meeting,
We will do that as well.
please.
Thank you, yes.
So with that,
Chairman.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, in reference to the small and local business utilization report, Mr. Executive Director, can that be broken down by race and ethnicity?
We can try. I'm not sure we can do that because
Okay.
I'm not sure that we asked for it. But
Okay.
we will check with staff on that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, Mr. Executive Director, you have a
Yes,
report?
I'll be very brief on my report. I have three things to report on, or two things to report on and one request. The first one is the Kendall Parkway. Obviously, everyone knows that on Tuesday, June 15th, the governor and cabinet, sitting as their administration commission, ruled in favor of Miami-Dade County and essentially rejected the administrative law judge's recommended order on the 836 extension litigation for the CDMP. As everyone recalls, the ALJ, or the administrative law judge, issued a recommended order back in March 2020 that found that the CDMP plan amendment allowing the extension of 836 was inconsistent with various CDMP policies at Miami-Dade County and was not supported by data and analysis in several respects. The Administration Commission, led by Governor DeSantis, disagreed and ruled that the plan is, and in quotes, in compliance as a matter of law. The Administration Commission still needs to draft and issue a final order, but the county has prevailed in this round. We fully expect that the opposition is going to continue litigation, but as staff, we're grateful to Miami-Dade County, to Dennis Kerbel, the lead attorney, and to the staff that supported him, where he cleared the record, he clarified the record, the misconceptions, the misinformation. We talk about public outreach, and this is something I want to state. I've been in project development for almost 30 years. I've been to many public hearings, and many of you know, whether it was the Miami Intermodal Center, the East-West Corridor, the 18-mile stretch going to the Keys, the Signature Bridge, every major project, I have been involved in the outreach and the public information. I have never, ever seen and witnessed the support and participation by a community that I have seen on the Kendall Parkway. And it wasn't just a political stunt over the last 2 years. This is something that started in 2009, and it has been consistent. And this is a community who has willingly said, we want a toll road. We are willing to pay for these improvements because quality of life is paramount. So I believe that our outreach, done correctly, is an easy sell, sir, and board members. So I just wanted to put that on the record as far as the Parkway. The second thing I wanted to mention is that the MDX system, as well as the Turnpike and any toll systems in Florida, as of the day after our last board meeting, now accepts E-ZPass. E-ZPass is the toll transponder that's used in the Northeast. It's available in 18 states. So now, if a customer is driving on the MDX system, they took a road trip, not only can we read the SunPass tag, but we can also read the 6C or Georgia tag, the Peach Pass, and also read the E-ZPass.
And Javier, if you can hone in on that, this is something that's been in the works for years.
This is
interoperability within our tolling industry is a conversation that has been going on as long as I've been on this board, and when I got on, it was already happening at some of our conferences. So I'm very happy to see that it's finally really coming to fruition.
into fruition. And with that, I would invite the board, as we move on, to participate in the industry forums and industry panels and industry association meetings. It's a little bit different than what you're used to. We participate in International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Associations, Team Florida, which is the Association of Expressway Authorities and Transportation Authorities in Florida. I think there's an incredible amount of information, not only on mobility options, mobility as a service, but technology and advancements in technology and how they're blending in with transportation.
And touch on that and to remind that. So I just read a brief on IBTTA yesterday talking about the potential for a tolling app So you might not even soon need the transponder. You might hold up your phone, which you already have near your hand when you're driving, who are we kidding? And just pay your tolls that way. So it's the development of IT and what we can do to make it easier for our toll customers to participate in these toll roadways. It's really just blowing my mind every year, and I'm very, very happy to see that it's like never stopping.
Board Member Weinberg
Very
is
sexy.
passionate about this.
And the last item.
Mr. Chair, you look like you want to take her mic away, but
Entertained.
I've been really nice to her, you know. You know,
I'm excited.
looking at me like,
He's black.
even Moss's, I can feel Moss's vibration.
And then
The passion. Okay, Mr. Executive Director,
The
you want to
last
finish your
item-
report?
Absolutely. The last item, Mr. Chairman, is that our general counsel has an employment contract, and it expires at the end of this month. And I would request that this board, through the executive committee of this board, which is comprised of the vice chair, the chair, and the treasurer, engage with the general counsel to, establish a new employment agreement. And I'll be happy to help the committee if desired. And thank you for the opportunity. That's my report.
Thank you. Let's move on that as soon as possible. Set a time and date.
We will do that.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Board Member Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, Mr. Executive Director, if this is doable at this particular time, I like and if the board is okay with it, I like for you to begin to take a look at the feasibility of linking the Kendall Parkway with 874, so we can create a beltway, a loop,
Amen.
if you will, and whereby transit can be a big part of that, as well. So I would request that that you move on that, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay with the board.
Absolutely.
Staff has been directed. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it?
That's it.
All right. On the Kendall Parkway, this is something that, you're right, this is not something that just came about a couple of days ago. This is something that when I first became a commissioner, and before that, when I was mayor in the city of Sweetwater, which is a long time ago, it has, we're not getting any younger, that's for sure, has been going on since then. Before, it was more of a road directly at the 836 extension, and it was going to come right down Flagler, continue basically the 836, and then go all the way to Chrome and so on, and then the plan started to change, and working with FDOT and so on, it started to curve and going into Kendall to create some kind of a future beltway that came across and run it out all the way back to US 1, and then came through the future train system that would come down the corridor of US 1. So time has come, a lot of time has gone through, but the situation is there. But it's now a reality that we could finally extend the 836 as now the part that goes to the Kendall Parkway, which will be an incredible situation for so many that spend 2 to 2.5 hours in traffic every day, both ways. That's 5 hours you don't get back from your life that you sit in traffic. And some people were questioning, no, that's not true. Do you want to see the stats? Or you want to listen to the people as to how long they sit there in that traffic and go through it? But Commissioner Moss, you're exactly correct. We need to look at the joining of highways, and also not just south, but also north. As progress has taken place in the west part of my area, my district, in District 12, when I served as commissioner, it is an incredible 14 to 15 million square feet of warehousing that has taken place in Northwest State. All that means jobs and people traveling to and from. And those roads are already going to be overloaded by the amount of people going. So we have to look that way too in the future. That is what this board should be doing. And that's what's important. So again, everything that's stated here, everything that we have discussed today, it's all extremely important. That is for the good of this community and the toll payers that use the tolling roads. So I think the future is bright. I think everything that we're doing and that you have done as a director and the board members prior to this board, and of course your staff and all, should be commended. And we'll continue to work as hard as we can for the good of this community, especially the toll participants that pay these tolls to ride these roads. There's a couple other issues that we're going to go through, but because of time, I'm going to go ahead and continue to move. Is there any other announcements or anything else that need to be done?
No, the only other announcement is the next board meeting scheduled for July 29th. Other than, we will schedule an executive committee meeting to discuss the general counsel's agreement. And if we can advance any of the financing options, we will call a special meeting, and I will consult with each of the board members for availability.
Exactly. Board Member Moss, you had something?
No, I'm fine, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm looking for your traditional, I need a motion for adjournment.
Move it.
And I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Hi, Mr. Chair, just a last comment. You know, this is going to be the last summer that some of us have to be out there, maybe taking a little break. Be mindful of that as you schedule the next meeting.
Got another one. I got one more.
Yeah, I'm talking about since COVID.
Oh,
Since COVID.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so the county commission is in recess in August. So the earlier in August, the better if you have to do anything.
And that's what I was trying to say before. You just said it a little bit more to the point, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With that, we adjourn. Thank you so much, guys.